to your mother. It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just some high-flying, ran fast vertical stems of professors from Penn watching eagles eat and pray like Pazookies on birthdays. It's Philadelphia. Marissa, Bo, and Zach kicking it. Cooler than 3 penguins till Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some
Birds with Friends.
The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some
Birds with Friends.
Marissa, Bo, and Zach are here to squawk. Don't miss the mistress talk on some.
This is what it's all about. We do daily podcasts for like 2.5 weeks during training camp. We got all kinds of time for guests and nonsense.
I will open up a 2-hour block.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Birds with Friends on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Bo Wolf, Zach Berman here to talk about the latest that's going on with the Birds. Joined in the show, very, very excited, by Matt Quinn from Mount Joy. They've got 2 shows in Philly this weekend. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Johnson's and other fun things. I don't know. I'm excited. Although, to be fair, we did already do the interview. We're going to play it later. But I'm excited. You guys are going to enjoy it. Zach, we're here on time right now. We're in good shape.
Well, doesn't Tom Coughlin say that on time is early, and early is early is on time?
But you didn't take that. You didn't take that to heart for the Matt Quinn interview.
I was on Shield's pod, and I was a few minutes behind. Yes.
Okay.
Enjoyed,
well, for those
enjoyed reconnecting with Shield. It's nice to come out of a podcast not feeling horrible about yourself. So that was a change of pace, but I enjoyed it.
Well, for the loyal Birds with Friends listeners who would never dare listen to a competing podcast, what's going on with the Eagles? Why don't we send it over to the Stone Cold Newsman?
It's been a busy few days for the Philadelphia Eagles, starting on Sunday night when they signed Zach Cunningham and Miles Jack, veteran linebackers, significant starting experience, bringing them into the fold. 2 big moves that perhaps happened earlier than some anticipated. So we will discuss that. Josh Sills returned to the team. He after the podcast on Friday, taken off the commissioner exempt list, and the Eagles held on to him. We will get into that as well today. Devin Allen is back. Was taken off NFI. The Eagles signed Johnny King, undrafted rookie out of, I believe, Southeast Missouri State. Had been with the Colts, was waived last week. The Eagles released 2 players who Bo has been watching closely: Chim Okafor and Trevor Reed. Chim is a rookie he's from a small school, and Trevor Reed spent 3 years at Louisville. Started 24 games before coming to the Eagles as an undrafted rookie. A little bit of a surprise cut this early in camp. We will get into that as well. But those were the big moves. The Eagles also added Josh Andrews. Did that happen since we last spoke? The days are all conflated right now. But the Eagles
belongs in the update, yes.
Okay, belongs in the update. The Eagles brought back Josh Andrews, veteran offensive lineman, was with the Eagles a few years back, was on the practice squad actually during the Super Bowl season, giving the Eagles another member of the 2017 Super Bowl team, or Super Bowl roster rather, on their 2023 team. Back to you in the studio, Bo.
I feel like Johnny King sounds like a 1960s poker player or something like that. Like
that's very specific.
Like
is there a delineation between a 1960s poker player and a 1970s?
Well, yeah, because like a poker player now is just like an MIT math whiz, whereas like a poker player from the Doyle Brunson days of yore is more of a dirt of the earth type guy.
How's your poker game?
I haven't played poker in a long time. I was definitely big caught up in the fad,
yes,
like during high school and maybe the very beginning of college. I like a poker, but I haven't played poker in a while.
playing on your floor at Wake Forest?
We did a little bit of that. It was more. It was
Okay.
really more junior, senior year of high school that we were getting together to
Okay.
play more often.
Were
I would say.
you a skilled poker player, or did you just have such a good poker face and would practice psychological warfare on the other people in the game that
Yes. Go ahead.
special guest over
We're
there, right?
switching the laundry
Okay.
from the washer to the dryer.
Mm,
So if you hear a little bit of a tumble, that's what that is.
there you go.
I would say I was a very mediocre poker player.
Okay.
Just I wasn't. It's not like I was like doing a great job reading people. I was mostly just hoping to get the nuts.
Okay. Well, you've
How about
improved
you?
in that area since then. Was more of a blackjack guy than a poker guy.
Okay,
Played
I
some
like a
poker.
blackjack. Yeah.
Yeah, but um, no, I wouldn't call myself a particularly skilled poker player.
Who's
Enjoy
the
poker
best
analogies.
among the Berman brothers? Who's the best poker player?
I'm gonna offend somebody here. I would say Nick, probably.
Okay, fair enough.
They're listening. They will. I'm sure I'll get a few texts.
Yeah, I hope you get an angry
later
text
tonight.
from Alex. Like,
Yeah, they're not watching
wait a
live.
minute, I want a
But,
bracelet.
yeah, but they are listening.
A couple things to touch on. Let's save the linebackers for next. Just quickly on these relatively more minor transactions. The Trevor Reed thing.
By the way,
Go
wait,
ahead.
real quick. I'm going to chime in. That's a very birds with friends statement. Let's save the linebackers and focus on the minor transactions.
Well, because I want to get these things out of the way, and then we're going to have a
No,
longer discussion about linebackers.
Yeah.
I agree with you that the Trevor Reed thing is interesting and a bit of a surprise. He has not. He has not played super well. There's a reason that he's cut, obviously. But they had 19 offensive linemen. They had to cut guys. It's interesting though that we've talked a little bit about like how worrisome the depth along the offensive line is right now. And if you just look at the way that they want to like usually build their offensive line room, Trevor Reed comes in, he's this like super athletic guy, former high recruit, which certainly you would have loved, and is the kind of guy who you would have thought would have been ticketed for the practice squad, right? And for them to get rid of him in favor of, Roderick Johnson and Fred Johnson, who have been in the league for 4 or 5 years, like the makeup of that offensive line room, and this goes to the Josh Andrews signing too. It's a little bit concerning long term, right? Because presumably next year you've got Tyler Steen starting next to Cam Jurgens if this is Jason Kelsey's last year, and behind them there's really there's nobody. Jack Driscoll's contract's running out. I would imagine he maybe comes back, but Josh Sills is now that next guy, like the young guy who's being groomed in the room. I guess I don't know. It's just a little bit curious. It must tell you that Stoutland just doesn't think that Trevor Reed has much going on.
Yeah. That would be my guess. I wouldn't be so worried about the long-term prospects here. If you look at Dane Brugler's look ahead for next year's draft, whatever it was, the top 50, I think it was, loaded with offensive tackles. I think this is a position that the Eagles look hard at during the draft next year. They will replenish that position. You mentioned Tyler Steen, high third-round pick. So they do have some young guys. But, yeah, they don't have the same
just that,
undrafted.
Yeah, when the days of having Nate Herbig and Sua Opeta and Ryan Bates all here and Casey Tucker, like the third team offensive line right now is all veterans.
That's true. I think really what their intent is to throw you off with the 53. They feel like you've gotten too good in that, and that if
I'm having a really hard time with the crush. I have to Thursday. I will announce it because I have to announce it.
Sounds like high school. Yeah.
But I'm having a really hard time. Nobody's grabbing my heartstrings. Nobody.
Now, there's 2 sessions left.
I know. I'm telling you. Now, by the way, I just glossed over that. We will have no show tomorrow. We will be back on Thursday, and then of course we'll have a post-game pod on Saturday. But yeah, I could run through all the people I've looked at closely to tell you, and it's just nothing's taking me over the edge. I may do something unprecedented, so we will see how that goes. Josh Andrews, who you mentioned, had a chance to talk to him today. He was the second team center, and you could tell already how much smoother things are running with the second team offense because he was able to snap the ball adequately. I think he's got a shot to make the team. More likely practice squad, they keep him around and don't give him a vested veteran deal. But it's really, I think, because they don't have a reliable backup center aside from Cam Jurgens. So
yeah, I actually think both those veteran signings, Dennis Kelly and Josh Andrews, seemed poised for the practice squad, and then they figure out which elevation do they need. Do they need depth at tackle, or do they need depth at center on that given week?
Do you know where Josh Andrews lives these days?
He went to Oregon State. He played for the Eagles, played for the Vikings, played for the Saints. So let's see. Those are all good places to live. My guess is because you asked Philadelphia.
No, actually, he was living in Portland, Oregon with his 3 kids. And was thinking about hanging them up. This might have been it. He's trying to maybe network and get himself a job at Nike.
But, in Beaverton.
And the Eagles came calling.
Worth it just for that employee store, right? Have you heard about that?
No, tell me.
I've never been an employee of Nike, but apparently, if you're an employee, they have a campus store, if you will, where you get insane, discount or you get very good discounts. And I hear it's a great perk to the job at Nike. I've spoken to a few people who've worked in Beaverton and have mentioned that.
Isn't it interesting that Phil Knight, of course, such an Oregon donor, but they work in Beaverton. Of course, the Oregon State Beavers.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with the joke. Yeah.
I'm curious.
Are you a big Portland guy? I know you're a big Portland, Maine guy. Portland, Oregon?
I like Portland. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't been.
Want to go?
I haven't been that many times. I've only been twice. Once, really. One was just a night. So, yeah, I like a Portland.
Did you eat Voodoo Donuts when there?
I did not. All right. We've been pussyfooting around this long enough. Let's talk about the linebackers. Zach Cunningham, Miles Jack. What does this mean for the current state of the Eagles linebacker room? What does it mean for their opinion of Nakobe Dean? Who are these guys? Do you expect to make an impact? Where do they play today? Give me all your download.
So let's start with today because we're in essence doing
we're here today. It's a practice report. Yeah.
Miles Jack was taking snaps with the first team. Zach Cunningham taking snaps with the second team, wasting no time there. Now the Eagles were thin at the position.
Right. It is notable. Don't have other options, but yes.
Yeah, but they could have gone Christian Ellis and Nicholas Morrow. They could have gone Sean Bradley and Nicholas Morrow. They could have done a handful of combinations. They went with Miles Jack. There's Zach Cunningham with the second team. Look, two really experienced players still in their mid to late 20s. Miles Jack, drafted at a young age. He was a 20-year-old, I believe, when he was drafted. Two-way player at UCLA, running back, linebacker. He's from Bellevue, Washington. Yes.
And that's how the connection to UCLA happened, right?
Oh, did you listen to the pod? Yeah. Okay. You listened to the pod. Okay.
Huskies.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So.
No, I just knew that.
Okay. There you go. Now I for full disclosure here, and Bo teases me about my Miles Jack interest. I'm gonna be transparent.
It's just I know you well.
Yeah, I'm gonna be transparent. I was in the press box the other day with Bo, and he was teasing me about Miles Jack, and I did look up. I went to the Twitter search field. I put in my handle, and I put in Miles Jack, and I found an old 97.5, the Fanatic when you're on and they transcribe what you say. And I said, Miles Jack is the best player in the draft. So that was 2016.
So definitive.
Yeah, he fell to the second round because of injury concerns. Although he hasn't been like an Iron Man, but he's been durable enough. He hasn't missed considerable time. He was really productive early in his career with the Jaguars. Signed a $57 million contract extension. Had a bad season with Urban Meyer. He can be absolved of that. A lot of people had a bad season with Urban Meyer. Got real money in Pittsburgh last year and wasn't good enough in Pittsburgh. They cut him, was a cap casualty. He's been on the market. The fact that he's still available or was still available in early August says something. But you're still looking at someone 27 going on to age 28. He moved fine today. I mean, we didn't get much of a sample size to really evaluate. But that's the skinny on Miles Jack. I should also add, was drafted and given a contract extension by Dave Caldwell, who's in that Eagles building and is this time of year is with the team. So something to be mindful of there. Zach Cunningham.
I'm just looking at the 2016 draft.
Yeah.
It's such a bold take, even then, to say that Miles Jack is the best player in the draft with like
Who would you have
Joey
gone with?
Bosa and Jalen Ramsey. Like those guys
Okay.
also fit like who you would have liked, I would imagine. I'm not expecting you to go Carson Wentz necessarily, but
yeah,
I feel like Ramsey and Bosa would have been up your alley. Even Tunsil.
I mean, it was a bit of hyperbole. Okay.
Do you remember giving that interview?
I don't remember giving that interview.
Okay.
I do remember when the Eagles traded from 13 to 8, saying, "Oh, they're in Miles Jack territory." I probably texted McLean. I probably texted McLean at like 5:30 in the morning, being like, "We should really look into Miles Jack right now." And Jeff probably picked up his phone.
That's pretty good.
And is like, "Zach, come on."
It's a linebacker.
Yeah, true. And a running back. So Zach Cunningham. Zach Cunningham was a standout at Vanderbilt, second round pick with the Texans. Tackling machine, right? Great size, great length, but really known for his tackling ability. Was also got a contract extension with the Texans. They waived him during the David Coley year. He ends up in Tennessee, was injured last year. So two different types of players, but both off-ball guys. Cunningham has more length. Jack, I don't want to say he has more speed, but yeah. So I'm curious to see. I'll turn this over to you because I've monopolized this conversation a bit. Who's starting day one, if either one of them?
I don't know, and I think that's part of the philosophy behind bringing in two of these guys is that you did a similar bet on Nicholas Morrow and it doesn't look like he's working out. Let's see who still has legs and who can transition. By the way, have you thought about a possible connection here between the way that the Eagles signed both Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham, signed them to the exact same deal, and the way that they did that last year with Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph?
I knew you were going with that joke there. Yeah,
I do. Like, let's just.
I heard that.
If we like the people who are really paying attention, who are sickos to like how news gets disseminated, like it's so funny. One national reporter reports that they're signing with the Eagles and says the exact same thing connecting to Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. The other national reporter has the details and says the exact same thing. I mean, it's good stuff.
And they add in there,
there's no surprises about how the tofu gets made here.
Yeah, look, Howie didn't get this far.
Yeah, he's no dummy.
What he's doing.
Yeah,
exactly. What's the expression? Don't hate the player, hate the game, right?
Yeah. So, and of course, you can draw the direct line between the two signings because they both happen because the Eagles are worried that maybe the guy from Georgia stinks.
So let's get into that part of it.
Yeah.
Do you think they're worried
I don't think that is the reason for the signing. Now, obviously, the injury is part of the reason for the signing. They're on bodies to begin with. But I also think that if the Eagles were head over heels in love with what Nakobe Dean has done so far, and they think he's going to be like a Pro Bowl linebacker right away, I don't think they would have signed both of these guys. I think you could make the case that the injury is the bigger concern. Our understanding is that he's going to be back soon. I still think that Nakobe
And he was
Dean's
running today, by the way, on the side.
right. I have every expectation that Nakobe Dean is still going to be the number one linebacker, and he's going to get the majority of the snaps there, and he's going to be the signal caller. But maybe they're a little bit more worried about what their backup plan is than they would have been a week ago. I think that's possible, or 2 weeks ago. Is that what you think?
Certainly about the backup plan, right? They were bare going in the camp. Anyone watching this could see they needed to upgrade at linebacker. We've been talking about this for a week and a half, and I guess just the timing of it jumped out more, that they didn't wait until, say, after the Browns joint practices, right? They were proactive there.
Well, and who knows if they're getting interest elsewhere, and like the Eagles already had this backup plan in mind, and now it's push come to shove. They brought both guys in to work out, so it's like they definitely needed help there, and that's the reason that we had days of Terrell Edmonds and Nolan Smith and Kyron Johnson practicing in the middle. I think the most obvious reason for this is Nicholas Morrow is not what they were hoping that he would be, right? Like, my guess now is that Nicholas Morrow is not going to make the team.
I would agree there. And I think in getting back to Howie a bit, one thing that I've noticed, especially in recent years, is I feel he's been more honest about his roster in recent years than, well, it's hard for me to say than earlier on in his career, but he's not waiting for a problem to come up in October or November, right? He's being proactive there. Now you can say nose tackle last year. Part of that was a reaction to Jordan Davis getting injured, and the fact that at that point in the year they were legitimate Super Bowl contenders. I guess the Linval Joseph thing's different. I was listening to a podcast with Ndamukong Suh the other day, and he's very deliberate and intentional about where he signs and when. So that factored into the timing there. But no, I think Howie saw what we saw, that they needed help at linebacker. I mean, anyone probably watched the Nick Sirianni press conference the other day saying Nick's happy with the room. This is just competition. This isn't competition. This is they need help there. I see in the chat, Steve says should have signed Edwards. I'm going to tell you, Steve, and we addressed this in March. Get used to this. This is an Eagles organizational philosophy. They're not going to spend money, and they're not going to spend draft resources at linebacker. What they're going to do is what they did here. They'll try to draft and develop in middle, late rounds, and then take these lottery ticket dart throwing free agents. And when it works, you have TJ Edwards and Kaiser White like you had last year. And when it doesn't work, you have the Zach Brown, go on down the list. All the guys, Davion Taylor, by the way, who I should have said they cut the other night. Right, they took a chance on a upside player, and it didn't work out. So that's kind of the approach that they're taking.
So I am curious to see how Cunningham and Jack are jockeying for position here. I think you could maybe make a case. I mean, we'll see. I would imagine that at tomorrow's practice, Cunningham is the one working with the ones, and Jack's with the twos. But I think you could make a case that. Like today, when Jack was in there, he's working alongside Ellis, right? And it seemed
he was alongside Morrow.
It was Morrow, and he was rotating with Morrow too.
He was rotating with Ellis, yeah.
Like stylistically, it would make it seems that like it would make more sense for Cunningham to be next to Dean, right? Because in theory, Dean is the one who can do a little bit more sideline to sideline. And you don't necessarily want to have two small linebackers on the field. But I think I agree with you that there's probably a higher likelihood that Jack has more left in his body than Cunningham does. But I think this is the reason why you signed both of these guys, is because both of them have about a 40% chance of hitting. And, now all of a sudden you've got a 60% chance or whatever it is.
Yeah. And, I don't know how much credence you put into the PFF stats. Miles Jack was not particularly good in coverage last year
I
and the
mean,
year
next to
before,
none.
but
Yeah,
he was productive earlier in
especially
his career.
linebacker coverage stats.
Yeah. Zach Cunningham, there's kind of this perception that he's good in coverage because he has the length and the range.
He's got those Michael
That's not
Jacquet arms.
yeah, the 34-inch arms. And I've seen that kind of reported elsewhere that this is someone who can really help him out in coverage with his length. My understanding is that hasn't really been where he's excelled in the NFL. That he's been kind of inconsistent in coverage, and where he's really helped teams where he's really helped his teams is with the tackling and the run stopping and chasing guys down.
Okay. I'm curious. Do you think this is it? This is the linebacker room for the 2022 or 23 season?
Oh, good question. I think that they could. I think they'll see in the in the Cleveland week and the Indianapolis week, and if they have to try to make a trade, they'll try to make a trade. But you can't count on a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson becoming available, right? So, no, I'm sure they have a short list. That's what the pro scouting department does. But no, I think there's a chance this could be the same. This could be the group.
Yeah.
But I don't think Howie's done. I don't think Howie's walking into the meeting room saying
He's going to sleep tonight.
We're good, guys.
We're good.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to go all the way into this, but I think there's still a chance that Christian Ellis is the best linebacker on the team for this season.
I don't want to get into this, but I still think there's a chance Nolan Smith's the best linebacker on the team for the season. So,
do you think that's a good use of him?
No, I think what you want him to do is rush the quarterback, but you want to get him on the field. And that's the way I see it, is that I just think there's so much talent there. Now, I would rather have him play 40% of the snaps rushing the quarterback than
80% of the snaps as a linebacker.
Yeah,
I think that's right.
Coverage. Yeah. But he's someone who I would want to get on the field. And if he's on the field, maybe you can do a handful of different things there.
All right. What else did you see at practice today? You have the report today. So yeah. What jumped out to you from the action on the field?
Yeah, I'm going to give a tip of the cap to Bo here because I'm not pandering to you. I sometimes try to butter you up, but you were genuinely on Reed Blankenship before anyone else. And I was saying going into camp that I think it's going to be Edmonds and Sidney Brown. Reed Blankenship is the first team safety every day, and he's playing well. He had an interception today that was just tremendous range. And the thing that jumped into my head when he made that play was, like, if Reed Blankenship was their second round pick this year or third round pick, if he was Sidney Brown and Sidney Brown made that play, I would be like, oh man, the Eagles nailed it, right?
I think I know why that popped into your head.
Because that came up on the show yesterday.
Yeah. Because that line was literally said by somebody in your ears yesterday.
Guilty as charged. But no, that's Reed Blankenship had a good day today. Marcus Mariota had probably his best practice of the summer from where I sit today. When we point out the bad days, he looked better today. I don't want to say this was Jalen's worst practice of the summer, but Jalen was not particularly impressive.
This was
today.
The day of the summer where more than others, the defense won the day.
Agreed there. There were times when the quarterback seemed to be holding the ball longer, which is usually an indication that the coverage is holding up. There were a few sacks in there, or I should say would-be sacks. I was standing next to you during one-on-ones just to try to, through osmosis, learn about offensive line play. And Jordan Davis, man, was it Joey Good Jones? Is that who he settled on?
It was Cameron Tom.
It was Cameron Tom. It
was a dominant rush, but it was against Cameron Tom. But yes.
Yeah, still that was a good rush. I thought Jalen Carter had a really good rush against Tyrese Robinson. Did you see that one?
And another one against Toth. That was
okay.
He showed some power.
I
am like to the expectations point. Like if Reed Blankenship is a second round pick, like if Jalen Carter was the number 2 overall pick, like he was projected to be, like I would be a little bit disappointed with what I've seen so far. I think he's
Wow.
flashed,
Yes.
but I have not been blown away by Jalen Carter yet.
Not on a snap to snap thing,
Yeah.
but I think the high watermarks have been good.
Okay. Speaking of defensive tackles, and I know you talked about this the other day, but like the experimentation that we might see from Sean Desai. We saw some 3 safety looks today. We saw a look today up front where they had 4 defensive tackles on the line and 2 edge rushers. It was like a 6-man line essentially, and then just 1 linebacker and 4 defensive backs. And what I thought was particularly interesting about this was they had Fletcher Cox, and then Marlon Tuipulotu was the nose, and then Jordan Davis was not the nose. He was off. He was like the 4-eye essentially, and then Milton Williams was closer to the edge. So, I mean, I don't expect we're going to see a lot of that. It seems like an individual, a specialized package against certain offensive personnel types. But I think it's a continuation of like, do we believe that the Eagles are going to let Jordan Davis play as an even front defensive tackle next to Fletcher Cox as he's lined up this summer? I think the more we see, the more likely that is to happen.
Yes, I expect that to happen. I expect that before camp, and I expect that now. To that point, though, we also saw a 4 safety look today. I don't know if you spotted that one.
I read about it. I missed it when it happened, but it was that like end of it was that 4th down need to score situation.
Yes, and Justin Evans was in the slot, and I think it was actually a play when Justin Evans had the interception.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I know that did Elliot Shore Parks do this to you because he's taken the stats. He wanted to know whether he should count that as an interception or whether it was a sack. I said interception.
He did not ask me that. I would have said sack on that play.
I think he heaved it because he was going to get sacked. But I mean, this was like it was like down 6 seconds the game's about to end. You got to throw the ball up. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
What did Elliot rule?
I think he ended up ruling sack.
So he didn't take your word.
No.
Oh. Good luck, Elliot.
Who did you talk to after practice today, Zach?
Jamal Singleton for a while, the running backs coach. I appreciate you letting me get in on Jamal there. Spoke to AJ Brown some. AJ Brown's been having a real good summer. It's like the way we were talking about Jalen Hurts earlier this year, or earlier this summer, that he just makes plays every day, and you just expect that to happen. Goddard was talking. I had to leave Goddard and spoke to Josh Sills. Josh Sills, for the record, said he's happy to clear his name. He's grateful to be back with the Eagles, that he did not know what was going to happen there. It's been a tough time. He's in a good headspace. He kind of wants to move on and focus on football. And what you see is what you get with him.
Interesting. What you see is what you get. That's okay.
Well, I asked him at the end, what should the public know about you, right? This is your opportunity. And he kind of didn't understand where I was going with the question. And I said this was a high profile situation. People don't really know a lot about you, Okay, what would you like them to know? And he said, what you see is what you get. And so,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we should talk about before we get to Matt Quinn? Talk a little Mount Joy.
Yeah. Anything else here? So let's see. So the Eagles are This could be of interest to some fans. It didn't really move me too much, but Jalen Hurts named number 3 player in.
Oh, you know what? I did want to talk about
in
this,
the NFL Network. Yeah.
Did you watch that clip?
I saw the clip online. I didn't watch the show. I saw the clip online.
That,
yeah.
Really Alabama heavy. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. We have seen how this list is made. Like the people from NFL Network come into the locker room. They hand out these sheets to the players after practice. They put 25 names down, and it's like, hey man, put me on your list. Put me on your list, and like that's how John Kuhn gets on the top 100 or whatever. So it's like
such a random throw with John Kuhn.
To call it like pseudoscience is an insult to pseudoscience. It's ridiculous. That said, I do think it matters the way that Jalen Hurts is perceived by other players in the league. I think now listen, as people have pointed out, I think Carson Wentz was number 3 on this after the 2017 season. So
that's fairly ominous, huh?
Take a pretty big grain of salt here. But I think I think it's interesting the way that Jalen Hurts is perceived by other guys in the league. And I think that the way he plays the position, the way that his teammates, tell their friend, talk about him to their friends in the league, I think it's all part of like the Jalen Hurts package. I think it's part of what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I think that's well said. He's someone who is like universally respected, and for the way he plays, for the way he carries himself, for the way he's built his career. So I would agree. And by the way, I think that's something that could be advantageous for the Eagles in the coming years.
Exactly.
Right? I think players might want to come here and play with Jalen Hurts.
I think that's part of it. Yeah. And, he deserves it. He was unbelievable last year. Okay. All right. That'll do it for the start of the show here. Take a little break, come back with Matt Quinn. We will be back on Thursday at 3:00 again. On Thursday, I'm going to be giving away my Saturday night tickets to Mount Joy. We're going to do a live I'm going to ask a trivia question. Whoever gets it in the chat first is going to get those tickets. So for the sickos who want to watch, show up live on Thursday. But for now, we'll take a little word from our.
Make sure. I'm sorry to jump in. Make sure okay. You win Bo's tickets. You go to Mount Joy on Saturday. You enjoy a great concert, and then you come home and watch our podcast to find out what happened in the game.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I'm guessing that. Who do you think is going to lead the Eagles in carries on Saturday night? Is it going to be Kennedy Brooks, or are we going to get somebody else?
Trey Sermon. I think they're showcasing Trey.
Okay.
The Ravens are favored in this game because the Ravens are awesome in the preseason.
Right.
So, yeah, something to watch.
Okay. All right. A little word from the sponsors. Back on the other side with Matt Quinn, Mount Joy. Enjoy the interview.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We've all faced crossroads in life when we don't know which path to take. It might be a career change or something in your relationship. Whatever it is, therapy can help you map out your future and trust yourself to find the way forward. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. It can be for anyone. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/BWF today to get 10% off your first order. That's BetterHelp.com/BWF.
We all have busy lives these days and can't afford to waste a day stuck on the couch because of a few drinks the night before. ZBiotics is the answer we've all been looking for. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It is this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut, where you need it the most. So just remember to drink ZBiotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have a ZBiotics before drinking, it makes such a difference the next day. Even after drinks the night before, I know I'll be able to show up to practice and take those notes that Zach thinks are so fantastic, even though they're just normal. Give ZBiotics a try for yourself. Go to zbiotics.com/birds to get 15% off your first order when you use birds at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you are unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/birds and use the code birds at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode. All right, we are back on Birds with Friends. You know him from such world chart-topping hits as Sweet Marissa and Good Riddance, IKTR. He is the lead singer of Mount Joy, who has 2 shows in Philadelphia this weekend, Saturday and Sunday at the Skyline Stage at the Man. I will be there Sunday night. Would have been there Saturday night if it weren't for the Ravens, but that's a topic for another time. He is all of those things. He is also newly married. Congratulations. Most of all, he's a sicko. From beautiful Buffalo, New York, Matt Quinn. Thank you for being here, sir.
Oh, thanks for having me. Zach, I was just saying I felt your pain. I have it's like a nice, as nice a view as you get of Buffalo, New York out this window, but then the shot is all backlit. So I had to pull the blinds, which looks like I'm in a hospital or something like that.
And I think there's like a perception of musicians that maybe they're not like the most like on time people. They're sort of on their own schedule. You were here right at time to record. So was I. Zach, unfortunately, late on behalf of what? Why were you late, Zach?
I was on Shields' podcast, Philly Special,
okay.
And no, we were good on time. We jumped off at 3:00, and so by the time I saved it, uploaded, got the link, came on here, it was like 3:01 or 3:02. I apologize. In college, they used to say better never than late. So shouldn't I apologize, Matt, but excited to talk to you here.
So Matt, I have to ask you about what I imagine must have been a seminal moment in your life. Take me to what was going through your head, the emotions, the interaction when you were in the Philadelphia airport and you thought that maybe you had a celebrity sighting.
Well, I was behind Zach in line at Jamba Juice at like it was early in the morning, or early for me. I don't know if it was early for you, but
it's not early for me.
Zach went up at 4.
And I don't know, I figured out it was Zach, and then I was starstruck. It took me probably a beat to be like, all right, I should say hi, but yeah, got my it's Terminal C there that has the Jamba Juice, which when I see Terminal C, I know I'm headed to Jamba Juice for an acai, and yeah, I got to see Zach. It's pretty awesome.
Taller than expected, probably, right?
Yes, quite a bit.
So before we get to again, we want to talk some Eagles. We want to talk a little, not too much music. I know that's not what you're here for, but give us a little bit of the lay of the land for this weekend. The Saturday show is sold out, although I may be giving away my Saturday tickets on the show here. But a few tickets still available for Sunday, and also some other fun things going on.
Yeah. Yeah, Sunday's the day if you don't have a ticket, unless you're going to get Bo's ticket. And we're doing, we're trying to just raise some money while we're there. We're working with B Philly, which is Jason Kelsey's charity, which works with mostly like public schools, I think, in Philadelphia. And then Connor Barnes Make the World Better, which obviously helps build awesome parks in the city. And Sharing Excess, which is a cool charity that we've partnered up with, which is helping to bridge the gap between, I guess, excess food and food insecurity. And if you're interested in that stuff, checking out the Sharing Excess website, it's pretty interesting. We waste an extraordinary amount of food as people, and there are people that 34 million Americans with experience food insecurity. So it's a cool company helping to bridge that gap. And just for our shows, we're doing if you could bring a non-perishable food item, we're doing a little food drive for the show.
That's right. So chuck a can of baked beans at me if you see me on Sunday.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Zach, are you going to be there?
I unfortunately am not going to be there. I was hoping to be there. The preseason schedule got in our way. Originally, the game was on Friday, and the game got moved to Saturday, and just threw some things out of whack. But I'm eager to see the next show and have become a devoted Mountjoy fan and an admirer of your work.
Wow, that's huge for me. Huge for me. Huge for me in the band. Obviously, pretty bummed you're not going to make it, but we'll try to go on without you.
So I know that Zach is curious about this, but like life on the road now, you're just beginning this very long leg of the tour. You were in Chicago last night. You're in Buffalo now. As you texted me today, it was like a 10-hour, very bumpy bus ride. What are your days like right now?
Well, we just did three days in a row. So we started in Indianapolis and then Detroit and Chicago. Now we have a day off. So it's kind of like just do nothing or get to go on your favorite podcast, which is cool. But yeah, sleeping at night on a bus. The bus drives at night. So bus driver sleeps during the day. I took the elevator up this morning with her. She was going to bed. I was going to be on a podcast, which is pretty cool. It's an interesting lifestyle. I definitely, the music was the dream, and then you kind of get to actually do it, and you're like, wish I was like a middle linebacker or something. Maybe not a middle linebacker, maybe like I don't know, quarterback, I guess would be better.
Quarterback, well paid, yeah. I mean, kicker, you don't have to do much. Middle linebacker is like you're wrecking your body, and you're not going to be that well paid, and it's a short career. It's tough.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry. Go on, Matt. Yeah.
No, I don't want to be a linebacker. I changed my mind.
As I shared with both of you at separate times, until we had that airport encounter, I thought living on the road was just a figure of speech, right? Like I didn't realize it. You literally slept on the bus. I thought the bus takes you from location. You're in accommodations, whatever it may be, a hotel, an Airbnb, and then you go to the next place the next day. I didn't realize you're driving overnight from site to site. I'm curious. These shows, it's not just artistic. There's a physical toll that it takes too. How do you deal with or how do you get the sleep and the restorative, I guess, energy that you need in those situations?
Honestly, I don't know. Some people are able to just sleep on the bus, which is like sleeping on a moving thing is like not really my skill set. But some people are better than others. But honestly, I think you just get to this point. Like we just started this tour, and after about like 5 or 6 days, you reach an amount of tiredness where you can sleep anywhere at any time. And so you just, I guess, crash kind of really. It's an interesting thing. It's probably not good for your brain.
It's like having a newborn.
It's like, probably, yeah.
And so, what is the bus? Is it like we got like 5 pods for everybody? Like we got space.
Yeah. So we've graduated to what they call in the biz condo bunks, which is a bit of a flex. Usually like your standard bus has 12 bunks, so it's like 1, 2, 3. There's 2, and then there's behind that 1, 2, 3. So there's 6 on either side. Okay. And it's picture like sleeping, if you've ever seen like a ship, or something like that. You have these little trays where you go into, and you can like barely roll over in a 12-person one, but in we call the condo bunks, we only have 8. So that means we can like fully sit up. There's only 1 bunk above us. It's like a regular bunk bed kind of thing.
Okay. Now, are you on the top or the bottom?
I'm on the top. The bottom is we're really getting into it here. This is really bus. This is good. This is good though. The bus is like the bottom advantage is you can just slide right in. It's like kind of on the floor, but it is like you're right. It's not like the engine's rumbling you, and like you kind of feel things a little more. Whereas up top, less of that, but more sway, which is like it's a little weird.
Classic give and take.
Yeah, pick your poison. Yeah.
Go ahead, Zach.
I was gonna move on from the bus life unless you had more there.
I feel like it's okay.
I'm curious. It's a common. I'm giving you a chance to pander here, but this is a legit curiosity I have. Is that in the sports world, as you well know, it becomes something where the athletes say there's something special about playing in Philly, right? And I see it going to all these games. The crowd is different in Philly than it is in Jacksonville or in a different venue.
Wow. Just like Kelsey, just throwing Jacksonville under
Yeah.
the bus.
I know music might not be the same, but is there something distinctive about performing in Philly relative to a different market?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are lots of great music cities in the country, but I think it's partially that I'm from Philly too, and a couple of people are saying from the band as well as from Philly. So I think we get sort of a hometown, we get that, I guess, thing that it's very connected, I think, to the sports thing too. Like, I mean, I go to the Eagles games and we bring a bus, and those same people are bringing the bus to the man. So, it's like I feel like people are
That's awesome.
treating it similarly. Especially playing there on the weekends, you get the best of people are going to tailgate our
Sure.
shows, and they'll be tuned up for some music. I can't say that about, I guess other places get ready for the shows. I don't know, but I feel like yes.
The Philly fan in you, that comes with like a territorialness and a competitiveness, is that something that creeps into music? Like, is there like a band out there that's like the Kirk Cousin Melvins, or like you don't have to specifically call anybody out, but is there the competitive nature there?
Oh, for sure. I think it's
also
maybe
feel
not,
free to call somebody out if you want to, but
yeah, I would definitely get in trouble for that. But I think it's not even so specific to like, we definitely have bands I think that we think about in terms of like we're measuring our success to theirs, because it's sort of hard to like know how well you're doing unless you have things like that, because I mean the goal is just to make good music, but that's a really subjective measure that could lead you to not really knowing how well you're doing. So yeah, we definitely we're trying to be as, I don't know, competitive might be the wrong word, but we're definitely aware of what other people are doing, and we crack tons of jokes at the expense of other bands. I'll tell you that much. So
okay, now we're talking. I like that. This is my last music tie, and then we can talk Eagles. But you know how last year at the NFC Championship game, Jalen sort of pulled some. He had said he loves Anita Baker, and so the Eagles got Anita Baker to sing the national anthem for the NFC Championship game. Let's say that Kelsey goes to Jeffrey Lurie. He's like, my very last home game, I want you to have Mount Joy sing the national anthem for us. Do you have have you thought about that? What's do you have your spin on it, a Mount Joy take on the anthem? I'm a big anthem guy.
yeah, well, the anthem's hard. I've talked to musicians who've done the anthem. I was actually talking to a bit of a flex here, Nathaniel Rateliff, who did, I think, the anthem for the Nuggets in a finals game, which is pretty cool. So he was kind of thrown into this.
That's tough.
And yeah, it's like, do you go with like the sort of band arrangement? Is there a guitar involved? It's tough in a stadium. There's like the echo happening, and just a tiny acoustic guitar down there. I don't know. I think I might just pretend I don't even know, like Anita Baker, I guess, and just go for it.
Yeah, I like that flex.
Super scared.
Two questions here to transition to the Eagles talk, okay, because it kind of combines both. You mentioned at the top the affiliation or the connection, if you will, with Kelsey and with Barwin. What's the background there? And then if I can ask a second non-related question, but I'm sure you saw Kelsey and the group do the Christmas album. What's the degree of difficulty for football players to make an album like that?
Well, the first part is just, obviously huge fans of the Eagles, and had a chance to meet Kelsey, and as you guys know, is just like such an incredible human on so many levels, and athlete as well, and obviously inspired by his charitable work too. So that's pretty much that. And then obviously same with Connor Barwin, had a chance to meet him, and just an awesome, super impressive guy, and excited about what he's doing in the city. So that was that. And then actually had a chance to go to a party that they did for the Christmas album.
Flex.
Another
And
big flex. Yeah, here we go.
yeah, just I'm just yeah flexing all over the place here. But I bring that up just because I got to meet some of the people that were involved in pulling it together outside of the players, and I'm not taking anything away from the players, but I think they're both, as you know, both Connor Barron and Jason Kelsey are super smart guys, and they pulled in all the right people, and I think that's the smartest thing you could do in a situation like that is that you find the right producer. And Charlie Hall, who is the drummer for the War on Drugs, I think produced the project and is a super accomplished musician in his own right. And then, I think having worked with good producers myself, it's like they kind of, they make it easy. So it's like a quarterback, you just sort of run the route and then the ball's there on time. It's going to sound good. So
Very nice. Look at this. So how are we feeling about the Birds? How are you feeling?
I feel so good about the Birds that it's like I'm almost doing it's gone the back way around. I'm like, how are they going to blow it? Like what is and you guys have talked about that a little bit, where it's like I'm trying to defend against because at least then I'll be able to say I knew this was going to happen.
Sure.
It's not like Bo here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got it. Well, here's the thing. I mean, they could be 3 games worse and they'd still win 11 games.
Yeah. I mean, my brothers and I were talking about it. I think this is big flex, right, brothers?
How many though? Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
I have 3 brothers, so
okay. You're almost there. Yeah.
I'm working on it. I guess that's really on my mom at that point. Wow, I just overthought that.
Listen,
Wow.
I know. I'm sorry, but we got to catch the Bermans. You got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess that's up to my dad and my mom. I don't even really want to think about that, but
I mean, maybe they'll adopt.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we were talking about is this the best Eagles roster in our at least our memory of watching games together, and I think there's certainly an argument. Maybe like you guys have talked about, there's some depth stuff. So then you do start going to all right, well, how would they possibly not be good? And I don't know. I've just seen Eagles teams. Obviously, we all have where they're very good on paper, and then the Redskins just start marching down the field, and you're like, maybe our secondary isn't good or something, that you didn't foresee. And that's really more where my head's at. I'm like, is it going to be the defense?
Kelsey thing from last summer, yeah, like whenever they're supposed to be good, they're not. It is a little bit on my radar. Remember having this conversation in 2018? It was like, they went and got Michael Bennett. It was like, wow, like this roster is somehow even better than the Super Bowl roster. And it never works out that way. But, I think the overarching thing is like offense matters the most. And as long as like 5 important people stay healthy, their offense should still be one of the best in the league.
I agree.
I don't know what the musical equivalent of a layup is, so I won't try that, but this is a layup question I'm fascinated by is what's your Eagles origin story, if you will? How did you become the devoted Eagles fan that you are?
I grew up, I had a couple of friends who had season tickets, and this was like at the vet, and got to go to some, fortunate enough to be taken along to they were crushing losses really, but I went to some of those crushing NFC Championship losses early. I went to that Buccaneers one. Sits pretty heavy. Just for as long as I can.
Rondé Barber goes into the Hall of Fame, even though the whole point of that defense was that corners don't matter.
Yeah. I had to watch. There was a lot of I think that was the tip catch by Joe Jaravicius there, where he just
first drive of the game against Blaine Bishop. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember Warren Sapp got injured in that game, and he ran into the tunnel, kind of close to where we were. I think he got poked in the eye or something like that. Anyways, that
just like totally more practice on Sunday.
Yeah.
Just like that. Yeah.
Anyways, I just as long as I can remember, and I sort of then eventually my family, when we got to the link, got 2 tickets, and now we have an old school bus converted, painted green, and which I reference in the Mount Joy song, and just have gone down to the games for a long time. So yeah, I even chronicle. I was talking to someone last night about this because they said they were an Eagles fan, and they were talking about the Thanksgiving game against the Cardinals, and I was like, the Larry Fitzgerald, yeah, that was, we really got torched. I think about Eagles games sort of they tell time for me.
Yes. Yeah. You mark time. Absolutely. You mentioned a song, so I do have to ask this because I go back and forth on trying to read the subtext. In Johnson's song, I want you to go on the record. Is it about Fred, Roderick, Kyron, Patrick, or Lane?
I mean, if it was about any of them, it'd have to be Lane. I think he's earned that.
Yeah, had to. Who knew when you wrote the song they were gonna have so many Johnsons?
It's crazy. Yeah,
That's
good and good for them. That there's a power in the Johnson, which is anytime you say it, it feels wrong.
Uh, this is another layup here, but this is often a good question to ask anyone, whether it's just
Flex.
a regular fan or a celebrity like yourself. Is what's your Super Bowl memory? Where were you? How did you spend it? And what's that moment like in your mind?
So I flew back to Philly, and a
From
friend.
where?
I was living in LA at the time,
Okay.
and I flew back to be there because I had a feeling that I felt like worst case scenario. I know that feeling really well, so I'll just be in Philly drinking my sorrows away. But yeah, I was at a bar not too far from Broad Street. A friend had like rented out a little zone of a bar, and then we just rushed onto Broad Street and watched very illegal things happen, and it was fantastic.
And what about the most recent one?
Most recent one, well, now I live in Philadelphia, and of course I was traveling. I forget what I had going on, but I was in LA, and I went to an Eagles bar, and there was like, I think 99% Eagles fans. It was a good time. Obviously, there's one table of Chiefs fans at the Eagles bar. And, just I'll never forget that. Like, obviously, walking out after the non-holding, the holding call, I guess, non-holding call, or yeah, holding call. And just, they're celebrating at this table, like with like the chicken wings. And it's like, go to hell, go to Helsinki, I guess.
That's right. Eating chicken wings. What are we doing here?
Yeah, it's terrible. But, I actually felt like that game I was thinking about this morning, like that game, even when they were driving down, like I still look back and I'm like, I still thought we were going to win. Like it just felt confident. That team had such an air of like they're going to find a way if they can get the ball back. And obviously they didn't. But
Now, Zach's going to think that I'm the one pandering here, but how much do you personally hold Jonathan Gannon responsible for that game?
I don't know. I mean, obviously the defense. I mean, Pat Mahomes is pretty good, but I feel like it's fair to say that the defense might have cost us the game there. I mean, the ball was in their court, so to speak, and they let up a touchdown. Or I guess they let up a field goal. Again.
Right. The penalty leads to the clock running out on the field goal. But I'm with you. I think if they get the ball back, I think Jalen Hurts. I mean, who's to say? But I think they score a touchdown and go for two, and who knows what happens if they go for two.
Well, here's the thing that I was thinking about for you guys, because I know Zach, you kind of challenged Bo on like, are you pandering with the Gannon thing, or is it like, do you genuinely?
Yeah. Go on, I'm listening. Yeah.
Okay, so I was thinking about this. I was like, I think the real test is, like, I think what I'm more interested in, at least, and I think a lot of Eagles fans probably share this, is obviously something happened where there was some sort of collusion of some sort between the Cardinals and Gannon, and obviously the league punished them for that, and that leads to Desai instead of Vic Fangio. So I think the storyline for the year for me is like, if the Dolphins defense is like lights out and seems like they are, they've got some obviously good players down there, and if they have, which wouldn't be too shocking, if they have like it'd be interesting to track the DVOA this year, Dolphins versus the Eagles. Because I think that's the bigger storyline. It's less about Gannon. He was probably leaving either way.
Yeah.
But did we miss out on a sort of Hall of Fame level defensive coordinator because of that? So I think maybe that's where the Gannon,
I don't think there's any doubt that is the case.
Yeah.
That if things had been done on the up and up, that Vic Fangio would be the Eagles defensive coordinator. Do you disagree, Zach?
I don't disagree that he would have been, that if it was a situation like, say, Dan Quinn a few years ago, when Dan Quinn was effectively hired but they couldn't announce it until after the Falcons were in the Super Bowl, where Kevin O'Connell, then Vic Fangio would have waited, right? But if
I mean, the guy was in the building for that reason.
Well, he had already been hired by the Dolphins at that point.
No, I
but
mean,
yeah,
he
you're
was
correct.
employee of the Eagles.
Yes,
as
yes,
as
yes.
as an expectation that this would be the case. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Now just two quick things here for Matt as we're talking about this Gannon discussion. I imagine your music sounds much more original if you don't play it in an echo chamber, right? And so that's kind of that's like all the Gannon conversation. And the second thing is there's a reason why we're talking to Matt and not his manager, because it's about the talent, right? Talent makes music, talent wins games. There were 22 players on the field that day, and to blame it on a coordinator when there was the best quarterback in the NFL, when there was a defense that had 70 sacks and ranked 5th in DVOA. I mean, players win games, players lose games. And if the Eagles won that game, you wouldn't be saying they won because of Jonathan Gannon. So they lose that game.
I mean, I wouldn't be saying that if they gave up a touchdown and then went and scored 8 points to win. You're right.
So I believe in players more than I believe in.
Then he gets no credit for the ranking that they had in DVOA.
No, I mean if you're talking about him as a coach, but I'm saying they didn't lose this game because there's so many. We don't need to relitigate
awareness stuff at play. Like the only thing you can't do on that final drive is let them take the entire clock out. You need to be more aggressive, because if you give up a touchdown, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that. We don't have to completely
relitigate. And I hear you there. I'm just saying there's a reason why Matt's not performing in an echo chamber. So yeah.
It'd be
although that's kind of like what a studio is, right?
There'd be a lot of feedback, I guess, but it could be cool. Could be very avant-garde, I guess. But I don't know. I guess I don't think, and maybe there's all different types of Eagles fans. I don't think a lot of the people I talk to are like thinking that Jonathan Gannon was this terrible defensive coordinator and he cost us the Super Bowl, as much as it is like looking forward at if there was, I think the Eagles and Sirianni obviously gave him a great opportunity. Now he's a head coach in the league, and that maybe he owed it to the organization and the head coach to abide by the rules.
Oh, I'm with you there. Not this
ethical heartstrings that he can't.
Yeah, now you're speaking my language. Yes, for sure.
Character counts.
You see that over my shoulder. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Anything else that's like on your mind, Eagles wise, that you want to talk about? Anything you're worried about or excited about?
Well, I have a question. I think one thing that escapes, and maybe you guys, I assume but is where do the Eagles sit in terms of their ability from a cap standpoint to make a move at a place like safety or linebacker, if something, I imagine there's one more thing that Howie's got up his sleeve, but I wonder how realistic is it to bring in like a, maybe top of the market type safety or something like that?
I would say they have flexibility this year to make any type of move that we're talking about. If you're talking about one of those headlining moves where it inhibits you when you look at having to re-sign Devontae Smith, potentially Landon Dickerson, there are only so many players you can have that are, 15, 20, $25 million players, right? So if you're talking about a safety that's just eat it on the chin this year or take it on the chin this year, or he's not a $10 million player, he's a $5 million player, an $8 million player, they can do that. And they can make a big splash, but if they make a big splash, it'll be harder to keep Devontae and Landon Dickerson and some of these other guys who are coming up. Hassan Reddick's next contract, whatever it may be.
I think generally speaking, Eagles fans and even the beat writers are in a fortunate position because the Eagles are so good at maneuvering the cap, and a lot of it is just borrowing from the future and restructuring stuff, and it'll catch up eventually. But that, it's just funny money. If there's something to be done, they will find a way to make it done. So if it's I don't even know who a safety would be, but if there's a trade to be made, or if an upset veteran somewhere else, like Chris Jones or something is looking for a way out, could the Eagles make a move? I don't. If it makes sense or not, football wise, is a different question. But I think they have enough room to make it happen.
Yeah.
Where did the Buda Baker situation land?
He signed. He ended up
signed, okay.
signing a long-term contract.
He said, JG, I want to be your guy.
Pew, pew, pew.
Like obviously up the middle, on the defensive line, maybe something like you said. But
Yeah.
I like Reed Blankenship, but it does seem like a bit of a stretch that like all of a sudden he's this going to be this guy that steps right in and
The Great White Hope.
holds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
still
know,
think that
go ahead, Zach.
the way the Eagles think is if there's a splash to be made, it's like Bo said, it's going to be on the defensive line more than they just organizationally, if they're going to bring in someone who is costing 15-20 million dollars, it's a defensive, it's someone who affects the quarterback. It's not someone playing that far from the ball.
I think that price point, that's right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it could be CJ Gardner-Johnson last year,
Sure.
where it's
Exactly.
a rental, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
A Jeremy Chin type. Yeah.
I think linebacker is maybe even still after the two signings yesterday where that might be. We'll see. All right. So what do we got? What do we got before Philly? We're in Buffalo tonight.
No, I'm off tonight in Buffalo. So actually,
So Zach, you might have a Buffalo recommendation. He's got a place in every city.
I'll take it.
I mean, Buffalo's kind of cliche to go with Anchor Bar, right? But honestly, last time the Eagles were in Buffalo, I spent the night in Syracuse, and I drove up the morning of.
Oh, that's right.
So,
you had to say goodbye to the old haunts with Gelb.
Yeah. So I actually don't make it up to Buffalo. I spent 5 nights in Buffalo for an NCAA regional one time, and I I drove to Niagara Falls to play some blackjack. So that was my I made sure I brought my passport on that trip, and I was across the border.
Oh, I've got it here. We've got Burlington, and then 2 nights in Central Park. Now we're talking. We know we've got Birds with Friends fans in New York. Let's make it happen.
So in Central Park, that's terrific. Great venue.
Yeah, excited. Should be a fun week, and then obviously Philly after that. So pretty excited. I will say I always think it's funny. Been to Niagara Falls a few times, and like that is a spot where people gamble is so funny to me. It's like the attraction is literally outside. and I mean it is. There's casinos, and that's obviously a big part of the attraction there. But it's just always so funny to me. It's like it's so like such a a statement of where humans are at. It's like there's this giant waterfall, and they've built like the most indoor activity you could possibly have.
Right, like go and play blackjack at the Grand Canyon. Like,
Guilty as charged there.
Beautiful.
One last question for me: what's your dream venue?
I mean, we've been lucky to play like Red Rocks and the Gorge, and those places are awesome, and play Red Rocks in like 10 days or something like that. But then, but I will say, like, as a fan of Philly sports, like I think if I ever got in any of the arenas there or stadiums, I think that's now definitely the dream fuel.
That's awesome. Well, the good news is that now the windows open up in the press box at the link. So
that was a request from us. Yeah.
All right. Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for all your help with the Ospreys over the past couple of years. Just the absolute best. And
IKTR.
We will see you this weekend. Everybody, make sure they go out if you can.
I know that's right. And thank you guys, and congratulations to Marissa if she's watching. That's awesome. Thank you guys.
And congrats to you.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. And then I guess that'll do it for this episode of Birds with Friends. So for Matt and Zach and Madison and JG, I'm Bo. We thank you for listening. We will talk to you on Thursday. And as always, we love you.